Hey everybody, this is Dave Little from the Epic Sports Broadcasting Network, and I thought I would just jump in tonight and give you all a brief overview of my BTIES Tournament, the best team I've ever seen tournament. I have broadcast one of these games on YouTube earlier this weekend, and I have also been able to post the results of a number of these on the Play Community Facebook page. So let us go to the screen, and I'll give you a little of the background about this. And I will post this link on future Play games or future webcasts, so that you can refer back to this if you have any questions. So we'll start here with the list of the teams. Now, the best team I ever saw tournament, the idea from that came from, let me move some things around on my screen here and keep track of what is happening in the chat room as well as on the screen here. So here's the backstory. In 2016, I was blessed and fortunate to complete my tour of seeing a ball game in every major league city. I have seen every franchise in their home ballpark at least once over the course of my life. I have not seen all of the current stadiums. I haven't been to Houston since they replaced the Astrodome and things like that. But on the screen now you see the list of places that I have been, and you can see that every franchise is represented here over the years. And I've also kept a journal of all of the games that I've played. The original journal was handwritten, and I have been slowly but surely transcribing these games into the OneNote here, dating back to 1997, the first game log I kept from a trip to the ballpark in Arlington when it was fairly new. My buddy Jim Browning lived in Arlington, and I went down to see him, and we got the idea after seeing the ball game in Dallas, hey, let's do all the stadiums. I had already been to Philadelphia, so the 88 Phillies are my Philadelphia representative. Now, if you count both the Montreal Expos, who we saw in 2000, hey Al, if you count the Montreal Expos that we saw in 2000 and also the Washington Nationals that we saw in 2006, that gave me a total of 31 teams. And to make a 32-team tournament, I added another iteration of the Cincinnati Reds. My two favorite Reds teams are in the tournament, the 1990 World Series winners and the 2010 team with Joey Votto and Johnny Cueto and superstars like that. So beginning with these 32 teams, I decided to use History Maker Baseball to create the rosters for each of these teams and to play this tournament. And I was very fortunate that not only is this a great game, but this is also a great community of people who contributes a lot to folks who want to play. So the first thing I did was to go to Baseball Reference for each of the teams and created a little spreadsheet of each of the rosters based on, in the 2010 season, this is the 2010 Reds, and as they are listed in Baseball Reference, they're listed in order of who had the most at-bats at any given position. So Ramon Hernandez was the number one catcher, and Ryan Hannigan was number two. Fill out the starting lineup for each team. Fill out the bench with the bench players that had the most at-bats, being sure all of the defensive positions were covered. So in some cases I had to, skip out on the sixth outfielder in order to put a backup shortstop in there or some such. Did the same thing with the pitchers. The top four starters, in the case of Cincinnati, Arroyo, Cueto, Leake, and Harang. The closer, and the top 5 relievers beyond the closer. And I'm trying to make sure that every roster ended up with 2 lefties out of the bullpen, just to be compulsive about it. So every team has 15 position players, 10 pitchers, which includes 4 starters and 6 relievers. So with this roster setup, the way it's set up in this spreadsheet, I can import this team directly into iScore. So copy and paste these into iScore. Now I've got 32 rosters in iScore to work from. And the next step is to create the cards for History Maker Baseball. Now, if you go to the History Maker Baseball website on the internet, you go to play.com, and then you go to free stuff. And if you're a play.com player, they have wonderful free stuff for virtually every game that, for every game that Play has published, people have put out free stuff. So I first found this Al Wilson's History Maker Baseball player card creator. When Al Wilson did it, it was in Mac. The Windows version was put in there by Travis Jansen and Paul Salzgeber, 2 wonderful guys that I met in Milwaukee a year or 2 back. And I was able to create another spreadsheet that looked like this. So this is the player creation spreadsheet. And I'll show this because it's available for free on the play.com website, as we just saw. So you paste the players in here on the top section and the pitchers in the bottom section, and you put in their positions, the team name. If you pay extra to play.com, this is not a freebie, but if you purchase from play.com their worksheet, they will show you exactly what statistical metrics correspond to what ratings. I'm not going to show that on this broadcast because that is proprietary stuff that Keith Avalone has put out. It was only like $6. So if you ever get a hankering to make your own History Maker cards, it took me about an hour a team to do these, between collecting the rosters and then importing them into the spreadsheets and then going through on Baseball Reference the statistics and extrapolating those statistics into the play.com ratings. So for example, Joey Votto is neutral in the field. They had Drew Stubbs and Jay Bruce, who both qualified as gold fielders based upon their range factors. Miguel Cairo and Juan Francisco had very low ratings, so they were semi-iron. Same thing for the pitchers. And then you can do each of the other qualities in the History Maker Baseball accordingly. Once you have these filled out, this very handy-dandy spreadsheet program that Paul and Travis and Al put together generates the cards for you. So we looked at the Joey Votto card here in the spreadsheet. Here's the Joey Votto card in card form with all the qualities listed. And now I just print this sheet off onto cardstock and cut the cards, and lo and behold, I have cards. So that was a very handy utility that the Play.com guys, or the Play.com community, came up with. I also pulled down the all-time great umpires, but there's also this umpire card creator that Travis Jansen put out for us. And I use that, as you may know, to create my own umpires, many of whom are present in the chat room today. Rob exclamation point is an umpire. Al Red Sox fan is an umpire. Ron Juckett is an umpire. Of course, Al Wilson and Keith Avalone are among the umpires. The way that umpires are rated are based upon their percentiles. So the umpires who have the highest walk rates are given the most lenient ratings, and the next tier is semi-lenient, questionable, and semi-questionable, strict, and so forth. And that's based on statistical analysis of the umpires. Yes, indeed, Rob, you are an umpire. Let me see if I can find the umpire cards that I put together. I might have to go look those up. Hold on just a moment, and I will have those. I'll put that spreadsheet up for you. Let's see if I go to desktop, go to History Maker Baseball, go to the Ump Maker, and we'll pull that onto the screen. Here is the umpire data. Actually, let me pull up the one that I used to make the actual umpires. So here's the umpire data. And as I mentioned, different umpires are graded according to percentages. So rather than randomly determine each percentage or each umpire, I went through and figured out that, okay, based on the qualities of umpires, there should be one strict umpire, one semi-strict umpire, one semi-lenient, and 3 lenient, and so on and so forth. And then I just rolled the dice and decided, okay, who's going to be the strict umpire? I gave that to Keith Avalone because he's got the most integrity by way of reputation of anybody in the community. And then once you do that, here are the cards. So Keith Avalone is strict. Let's see, Al Red Sox fan is a semi-questionable umpire. Rob exclamation point is lenient. ID Jester, Stratomatic Delaware. Let's see, yeah, Ken Castro is part of the umpiring crew, and so on. So I have umpires, I have teams, and cards printed up. The last thing I'm going to show is the actual tournament brackets. So I created an American League bracket and a National League bracket. The original brackets were uneven because I only had 14 American League teams and I had 17 National League teams, because when I saw the Astros, they were still National League, the Expos were National League, the Washington Nationals are National League. That unbalanced the leagues. So I threw the Expos into the American League bracket, and I threw the 2010 Reds into the American League bracket, and that evened out 16 and 16. The top seeds are based upon number of wins that a team had in a given season. And then instead of doing 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, I did it in what's called the Swiss style of tournament pairings, which is 1 versus 9, 2 versus 10, 3 versus 11. Figured I'd get a little better series out of that. So the number 9 rated New York Rangers pulled the upset on the top rated Yankees in their 101 wins in my most recent series. And then I will jump over to the National League, where I have completed a couple of National League series. And later tonight I will tee up the first game between the 1990 Reds and the 1997 Cardinals. The way I do these series, each of these is best 2 out of 3. I start the series with game 1 in the stadium of the lower seeded team, and then games 2 and 3 will be in the higher rated teams. So we'll start with the Reds at the Cardinals tonight, and then game 2 will be in Cincinnati. Game 3 will be in Cincinnati if necessary, and the winners will move on. For the first game, I used the starting pitchers that were used in the games that I saw for these teams in real life. With the 1997 Cardinals, if I go back to my baseball journeys, I can see that my trip to St. Louis was on July the 6th of 1997 in Busch Stadium, and it looks like the Cardinals lost that game. Todd Stottlemyre was the starting pitcher that night, so he'll get the start in Game 1 against the Reds. Of course, I saw the Reds a billion times at home, so when I go to the St. Louis roster, I see that, where are the Cardinals, that Stottlemyre was the number 2 guy. So I'll start whoever was the number 2 guy for the Reds. It'll be number 2 versus number 2, and then in Game 2 the number 1s will go, and so on. So that's that's how I choose the starting pitchers. I also look at who was the star of the game for St. Louis. And it looks like, and I may go to baseballreference.com and look up the actual box score of this game to figure out who the star of the game was, or I'll just go through my recap. It looks like Royce Clayton got some love that game because he had just been named to the All-Star team, so he may be my star player of the game for the Cardinals. And I'll look at whoever went 0 for something or other, and they will be the cold guy for the first game. And then in subsequent games, we'll look back to the previous game and see who did well and who did poorly, and that will be my hot and cold guys. So that is how I do the tournaments. And I will, once a week or so, depending on my schedule and my wife's schedule and who else is streaming, put these games up on the live stream. But I'm certainly going to not try and broadcast all 32 series in their entirety through the course of this series. When I get to the AL and NL winners, I'll do a traditional 4 out of 7 World Series and probably do most, if not all, of that on the live stream. So that is just the background I wanted to provide to folks. Thank you all for checking this out tonight, and I will look forward to seeing you guys on the streams as we go through this tournament. And now, when you ask questions about where did the cards come from, how did I choose the teams, how did I choose the lineups, we can refer back to this video for answers to that. So, Rob, thanks for coming. Ken Castro, our Red Sox fan, Tribe fan, everybody who caught the live broadcast, thank you for coming. I made all teams. Ken, I made the 32 teams I made were teams that I had seen live in their home stadiums at the over the course of my baseball journeys. So here is the list of the teams that I saw in their home parks. And yeah, I did create all 32 of these teams. And if you get a chance to watch the 15 minutes of this broadcast, I show the tools I used and talk about the process I went through to create these teams that are now part of the Best Team I've Ever Seen tournament that I am honored to share with you all, my friends of the channel, as we go. So thank you all for checking this out, and enjoy your streaming. And some football today. That's our stream, and I am out of here.